Next item on the agenda is I have Mrs. Morrow. And she'd like to talk to us about the marijuana issue.
We have a motion to let her speak.
So moved.
It's been moved, supported? Who supported it?
Nope, I don't have support yet.
Somebody want to support that, to let her do her presentation?
Okay, so moved.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, it's unanimously sorted. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Stack and Council, for the opportunity to speak. My name's Laura Morrow. I'm a longtime resident in Trenton. I was born and raised here. I moved away for a while when I served in the United States Air Force and was out of the state for a while. When I moved back, I've spent the last 20 years as a homeowner here and raising my family. I'm here as a concerned resident. I'm here concerned for my family, for my community, not just for the city, but for downriver as a whole. The implications of the medical marijuana facilities and what the council is looking at right now as far as the proposed ordinance has far-reaching implications. I understand that I did send a video that was reviewed and has been sent to all of you. I will actually be sending the longer version documentary. It's actually, and I can't take any credit for it, the trailer that you were given, just for the record. It was actually put out for by Drug Free Idaho, and it was all the statistics that have come out of Colorado, some out of Oregon, and some out of California for what's currently happening with the drug crisis there. And it's all not just around the legalization, but in that short video you had, two of the cities that were in there, Denver, Colorado, and Pueblo, are actually cities that invited the supply chain that we're talking about here, processing grow facilities into their towns, and much to the detriment. So I just wanted to call that out. But I will make sure that you get a copy of the full-length documentary as well as the Planning Commission. So what I'd like to ask is just a few discovery questions, because I know we really haven't had a public forum or hearing on this. I know a lot of the residents I've spoke to personally were not aware of everything going on concerning the ordinance. I do know that in January of 2018, though, there was a move to refrain from authorizing medical marijuana facilities, and that was actually approved. Everybody voted for refraining with the exception of Councilman Rizeppa, and this was signed by Mayor Stack. Then also, I know October of last year, you also took a good move, and you said that we do not want legalized marijuana use in our city either. So that was
I think it
October.
was for recreational.
Yes, for recreational, that's correct. And I commend the council for that move. What I'd like to ask, though, and I guess I don't understand, is between the two ordinances and resolutions that were passed last year, and then the one that is here from August of this year that was proposed, that this is now saying that we want this in our city. So what I'm trying to understand is kind of the quantum leap from last year to this year. What has changed? What has changed your mind? What are the perceived benefits for the community? And I just like to understand and just have a little bit of a discovery.
Anybody have anything like to speak? I will let you know that at this point, we had gone and the council decided against recreational. We were looking further into the medical marijuana end of it. We weren't going to be for, at one point, there was no provisionary whatsoever in the community. The other thing was that it wasn't going to have any, even processing, the council was kind of leery about doing processing. It was to see, in some respects, it was to see if we could take some of the grow systems out of the residential area. I will let you know that. I don't know if that would happen or not. We do have some areas that we get complaints because the people can smell the marijuana outside their homes. So they're growing it at, the local homes. So my thing is, at this point in time, after the first resolution or the first ordinance that we read, then we were looking at the second ordinance. I have a real problem because what was being proposed in the first one, then when the second one came to look at further into it, it was taking things out and, and it was stuff that we had already approved that we didn't want to, we wanted left into the ordinance. And then all of a sudden it was changing it. So there was a big thing with that. And so I said, you know what? We need to take it to the planning commission. We had first gone to the planning commission and we're trying to look at what we could do with it. We need to take it back to them, see what their recommendation is. Maybe they see something we don't, and getting some more people involved, because this is a touchy issue. And I'm, right now, at this point in time, I'm looking at, I'd like to start the process over. I don't know where everybody else lies in this, but I'd like to start the process over so that all of us can be part of it. And if we're, so that we all agree, or just, we're gonna have people that disagree, no doubt about it. But I think it's time to look at what we need to do and making sure that the planning commission is involved with it.
Absolutely, and that's been my question. As a concerned resident, what due diligence has been done here? Because going back through some of the notes from the council meetings, looking at prior videos, I haven't really seen that, and that has really been concerning to me. Because obviously you want to get input from the community, from the local schools, from obviously the law enforcement here, and everybody that this is going to impact. And I would even say the downriver communities as well, because I know for certain that Riverview has already voted against it, their council. I know that Mayor Odette has also, they've turned it down. They don't want it in Woodhaven. And so there's all the downriver communities that have already said no to this. Mm-hmm. So again, please bear with me. I wasn't planning on talking too long tonight, but since the video's not getting played, in lieu of that, I do want to share just a little information. So from all the research that I've done, because typically the big driver for this in cities is the revenue. That's the bottom line. It's supposed to make money, right? Well, statistics have shown, and this, I can give you all this data. This is not numbers I'm making up. For every $1 of revenue that comes in, communities have to shell out, and this is a conservative estimate, $4.50 in social costs. That's from the Centennial Institute in Colorado, very recent report. Other reports have shown the burden to be high as 10 to 1. So either way you look at it, you're in the red. You're not going to help any budget crisis, you're actually going to compound it. So the revenue's not there, the statistics are bearing it out. And what we're finding too, and what is Colorado has found, as has Oregon and California, is that marijuana business, they're just not good corporate citizens. Money is not going back into the communities, money is getting taken out. The only one getting money are the people benefiting from it. They're in the industry, and the money's going in their pockets. And another concern I have is, as you look at planning, that you have a risk mitigation plan in place for chemical fires, direct injuries and traumas, burns, and environmental exposure. Even looking on the website for MIOSHA, for Michigan Health and Safety, they said due to the complicated nature of the hazards present in the marijuana industry, you have to do careful planning. So that means you have to look at, for your first responders, those employees that are going to be working in those medical marijuana facilities, the public, and hospital personnel staff. You have carbon dioxide-rich air and pesticides that are used. There's high-power grow lights. It taxes the power grid. It's a concern there because of the power coming into the plants. You have flammable chemicals that are being used to extract these oils. You have noise and pollution from the grow and processing plants. You can already go down Jefferson right now for the ones that are allowed to grow under caretaker, and you already have the skunk smell. So we know that that's going to compound. And then there's also the potential workplace violence related to asset protection. Again, this all came from MIOSHA. This is not anything I made up. Then you have to look at law enforcement costs. You have to have training, and you have to have special equipment. Councilman Benedetti, I know that you previously had served in the fire department, so I'm sure that would be of great concern to you. Right now, recent studies estimate that between $820 million and more than $1 billion will need to be spent over the next 5 years for training and new equipment. That came from the New York State Sheriff's Association. And again, I know we could be here all night. This isn't even half of what I have. But to show you hazards of the trade, this is from the National Fire Protection Association. You have the International Association of Fire Chiefs saying all the near misses that are going on at grow facilities. You have grow houses and facilities producing unforeseen hazards. You have living near marijuana grow can be unhealthy. So this, again, is just a sampling of what's out there. And of concern to me, because my background's in healthcare, have you consulted or talked to the local hospitals? They have to be able to plan appropriately for disaster management planning and hazmat planning. And that's something that they need to know so that they have also the appropriate protective gear and training in place, just like our first responders need. So that being said, we know that this marijuana is a billion-dollar industry. They've sold a slick marketing campaign to basically our youth, to us, to make it seem like we can blur the lines between the legalized recreational, the legalized medical, and it's all good. And what we're finding is right now the industry is cranking out very high potency THC products and edibles. This is a highly unregulated industry. And then you have the staff and the personnel that will be working in these facilities we're proposing. They're not chemists. They don't have a background in this. So what we need to know, and what you saw in that video, this is not Woodstock weed. Woodstock weed was 4 to 5% back in the day. That's everybody thinks, oh, it's marijuana. How harmful can it be? We're talking about high potency. We're talking about up to 99% pure. We're talking derivative that's being put out there in the industry. Again, this is still a Schedule I narcotic. It's not regulated by the FDA, and the DEA says it's Schedule I illegal. It's still illegal. And when you talk to people, too, about, well, medical, you know, it's going to do a lot of good things, right? This is all recent from the American Cancer Society. They don't even advocate the use of inhaled marijuana or the legalization of it. America Glaucoma Foundation, they have found that they can't even recommend the drug in any form of treatment at glaucoma at the present time. American Association of Pediatrics, we're talking AMA and many, many associations here.
Mrs. Morrow, can I have you kind of wrap it up? Because we usually only give 5 minutes, but I gave you plenty of time. But what I have, one of our council members wants to address you too, so.
In regards to your thing about the fire department, you're right, yes. I worked here for 25 years, correct. One thing I'll say is, at least doing it down there, it's in an area, it's regulated. I went on a tour of it. They can do it now without our permission. They're doing it now without our permission. They have state-of-the-art security systems, they have fire protection systems and alarms, and they have those things. Or we can have the resident grow it next to you in his basement. Nobody knows he's there, and when that place catches fire, everything you just brought up is going to be a factor for our fire department and our police department and your neighborhood. But at least if we know where it's at, we take chemicals, plant, and stick them down there where Edafino is. We had McLeod where it was. We stick them in areas for a reason. They're there no matter what. I cannot stop this group from being there. They're there. Their chemicals are there. They're being inspected. But at least we know they're doing it. Other places, they have not come forward, and they don't need to come forward. So I want people to understand that you're right. There's issues with it. But at least it's a controlled area. If it's in my neighborhood, I'm going to be standing there where you're at.
Okay, I would just tend to disagree that it's not going to be controlled, because once there's a massive fire down there, then it involves the whole community.
And we can have a massive fire anywhere with
That's
over
correct.
there at Adafina. And we
That's-
can wipe out half the town.
That's right. So why do we want to
We
add
can have
to,
it
why
back
do we want
at-
to add to it?
All right,
You know what,
solution.
I don't want to get into
No, I know.
going
I'm
back
done.
and forth,
I'm done.
okay? So,
I apologize. I thought
Okay.
by being put on the agenda that I was given, more than 5 minutes.
yeah, not a problem. And I think you've had quite a bit, so just so you know. But I understand where you're coming from. This is some of the things that they're gonna have to consider, all the council, all the planning commission, to decide what we're gonna do with the, issue. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not in a hurry to get this taken care of, because I'm seeing now where all these lawsuits are coming out with different communities and all this, because they don't have, certain things, how they pick the people. We have 3 people down there right now, but what's to say that I can't fill up the whole block?
That's right.
See where I'm going with it? So my problem is that I want to, and who's going to be picked? Maybe these guys are going to go in, drawing. Guess what? Might be one of you, might be 2 of you. We don't know. And they've been very forthright. Don't get me wrong. They've been very forthright with letting us know about the what they're doing down there. I've been on a tour. I'm going to tell you, I was on a tour for the 2 locations. The third one is, I'm not going to say it, but I guess I will because I think he's riding on the coattails of the other 2. But I'm just letting you know that as far as I'm concerned right now, I think we need to do everything, and there's no reason why we have to rush into this because now we're seeing where the ones that have rushed into it, guess what? There's all kinds of problems.
Yes, and I'm saying we need a public forum. The council and the city owe that to the residents. This cannot fly under the radar and not be known.
And we won't do that.
Yes. The only thing I'll end on is that today I had a conversation with a friend and a current colleague of mine. He's a data scientist I work with. He lives in Denver proper. He was actually for this because he's been there since Denver's put it in. He was gung-ho for it. He is sitting there watching the numbers coming out, and as a data scientist, he's been studying them. He also says, I turn on the news every night, Laura. He said, without fail, there's either something going on because there's a black market bust. He said illegal activity has come in. It's not squelched it. He said we still have a budget problem. It's not taking care of that. Their homelessness is out of control. All the things you saw in that video, he's living it firsthand. And this was from somebody who originally supported it. And to even make it a little bit more poignant, he told me this weekend him and his wife own a flower shop. He said on Saturday he had to help deliver flowers to a funeral of a kid that just turned 18-year-old, had been vaping, again, medical THC, was told, hey, this is good for you. And this was a kid who had asthma. He had a predisposition. He vaped it, the lungs shut down. There was no time for CPR or anything, and that was it. So it is a public health crisis we're talking about here, too. You can just turn on the news every night and you see what's going on with vaping. And 77% of the cases have been linked to THC. It's not nicotine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time. We
Yes, I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
And I appreciate the opportunity to work again. And if you need anybody to volunteer as far as a citizen on the planning committee, I'd be happy to.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Okay, next item on the agenda is for our Mayor Pro Tem. It's the authorized disbursements, the investments, schedule of investments, and the commission reports, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Make a motion that we authorize disbursements dated October 7th, 2019 of $1,907,282.31.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, it's unanimously so ordered.
My next motion would be to receive and place on file the schedule of investments and cash on hand dated September 30th, 2019. The Civic Commission minutes dated June 3rd, 2019. The Historical Commission minutes, August 12th, 2019.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, it's unanimously so ordered. Anything else?
Oh, that's it right now. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna go to I have to look at my, the last time, okay, 10-7 is, Councilmember Zappa.
No, thank you.
Councilwoman Von Crooks?
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Councilman Benedetti? Councilman LaFever?
Wow. I don't have anything. Thank you.
Councilman Peruggi?
Yes, I have a question about the recent state money that's going to for the grade separation. My question to you, and hopefully you can answer it in the future, is how did state money end up on a county road and our street is a state street and didn't get the funding?
Well, I'm gonna let you know that I did contact, because that went through the state budget, and then it was taken out of the budget and put into an account. But what's happened is that, I wrote to our, state representative and our senator and have asked them to be here October 21st at our next meeting to explain that to the residents. I'm not happy about it. It's $12 million they secured. That doesn't have the rest of the money to go with it. It is not the Allen Road overpass, underpass. It is at Van Horn. So it's by the, where the train tracks go into the yard. And so that's where it's at. It's not even the one that's on Allen Road. So that's gonna be really touchy subject because of, if we had to do ambulance runs or anything, we'd have to go all the way around. So, I have asked them to be here, so I'm hoping that that's what's gonna happen, because I wrote them a letter last week and
Have you gotten a response?
not yet.
That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
That's it? Okay, Councilman Howie?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Okay, then we go to our elected officials. Madam Clerk, do you have anything this evening?
I would just like to mention that we will have a quarterly budget meeting at 6:30 PM on Monday, October 21st, and the regular council meeting to follow at 7 PM.
Okay. Our city assessor, do you have anything this evening, Mr. Dalquist?
Mayor, thank you. I have nothing.
Our city treasurer, Mr. McCullough, you have anything?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Department heads, do you have anything that you'd like to report to the public?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to update council and mayor and council on our MacArthur Park project that was delayed 1 year. And I'm happy to say that last Wednesday, we were able, with the help of the DTE Energy, they brought down volunteers in force as well as residents of our community came together to plant over 325 perennial plants as well as shrubbery. If you have the opportunity, stop by. The park is absolutely beautiful. Yet to be put in are some trees that our Department of Public Service will get in the ground in the next couple of days. But thank you to DTE Energy and all of our volunteers from the community that came together for that project. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else from any of the department heads? Mr. Doyle, Dr. Doyle. From the Trenton Public Schools, giving us an update.
Thank you, Mayor Stack and members of the City Council. Again, I'm Dr. Michael Doyle. I'm the Community Liaison Director for the Trenton Public Schools. The district continues to move forward with our bond improvements. We've opened 2 kindergarten classrooms, 2 at Headkey, 2 at Anderson, and they are full. The next areas that you're seeing being developed is the gym, cafeteria, music areas. They're currently under construction at Headkey and Anderson. That's where the building's going on right now. And those should be complete in January. The high school is in the final stage of its design. Weather permitting, we'll hope to start working on the new improvements for the high school in the spring. And a good place to find information about the schools is always to follow us on Facebook. It's just TrentonPublicSchools.com, and then our website. Thank you.
Very
It's just
good.
a quick update on schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other people? Okay, I'd like to do something before we go. I didn't go to the council, so I need to go there for, yes, I did, okay. I just wanted to bring to the attention of our residents, there is a application or app on your phone that you can actually kind of track the trains across the tracks. And it's called Tracks, but it's TRRAXS. And you can actually put your favorites when it comes down to what roads you cross, and they will tell you. Now, it is interactive, so say, for instance, you were at the, you're at Van Horn and Lathrop. It says 11 minutes ago, somebody must have updated this 11 minutes ago to tell us that it was clear, okay? And that'll tell you that the actual tracks is cleared. The Rosio Free Bridge is also on here, Vreeland Road in Toledo. I've got Sibley and West Jefferson, King Road and West Jefferson, naturally Van Horn and Fort Street. So there's things that you can see, and all you have to do is, if you are at a track, at one of the tracks, please, if you're sitting there for a while and then all of a sudden it says that it's cleared, just press the cleared and it'll help somebody else trying to get across the tracks. But this is an app that you can get, and it's Tracks, TRRAXX. So if you're needing to get across railroad tracks, it might help you out a little bit. Also, I wanted to thank all the residents and friends and family that have prayed for my mother. She is being brought back down from Beaumont, Royal Oak, and she is now hopefully on her way up the ladder, I guess you could say, or over the hill type thing to get where she needs to go. But she is coming back to Applewood for rehab, so we're thankful for that, and my family thanks all of you for your prayers. Also, the 45th anniversary for Trafford Square was over the weekend. He actually had, I think he said somewhere around 600 donuts he gave out. He gave out 500 hot dogs he made, and hamburgers was like 300. He said that he had between 1,200 and 1,400 people at his event. They celebrated their 45th year of having Trafford Square down at Van Hornen Fort, and I stopped by there, and they've got a brand new sign out front, so if you see anybody over there, commend them on the good job that they've done over there, because they've really tried to make it appear and look good. Okay, so now it comes time for the public. If you would like to talk to us, please go up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and I will keep you to 5 minutes, so we'll start it as of now, okay?
I use my clock. Larry Bennett, 3277 South Stella Court. And I would like to commend Joanne and her crew for MacArthur Park. It really does look nice. I live around the corner. My question is on the medical marijuana issue. It seems to me like there's two issues. One is what's going on in other communities as far as lawsuits. And the second part of it is once that's resolved, or at least to where a point we can address it, what we're going to do about it, which is what I believe you're turning over to the Planning Commission. Would you tell us what directions specifically, at this point in time, you're giving the Planning Commission when you turn over this packet or whatever it is?
The Planning Commission actually helps us with the zoning of the area, how we can adjust what we're gonna do with that area. And it would actually, so once we can put it in an ordinance, it would help us to decide if that, we're only gonna put it in that zoned area, type thing, or we're gonna go south of here or whatever. I was just worried about, one of the things I was worried about is if we go and have the certain growers down here at Jefferson between King and Sibley Road, what I was afraid of is that they're gonna say, okay, you got an industrial area down south of here, why can't you have it there too? Because it doesn't hit, residential areas. So the Planning Commission's kind of a recommending body, or they are a recommending body for us to be able to send their way, get some views and things like that. They probably will have a public hearings or some way that you can talk at one of their meetings. And then we'll go ahead and they'll bring back their recommendation and we'll see where we go from there. But it's the idea of getting people to be able to voice their opinions of, what's gonna go on there. I guess that's, and what was your second question? I'm sorry.
No, that was just my question. I'm trying to understand so the Planning Commission is going to be dealing with a zoning issue, maybe for that or maybe for everything.
They do the whole city, the zoning, when they have
right.
certain things on zoning, they're the ones that they go to and look at whether it should be zoned business, mixed use, whatever it may be, okay? And maybe my administrator can give you a better definition here with all the good stuff, so that clear up what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, basically, Planning Commission's review of this will be as it relates to any zoning ordinances or changes to the code that they've adopted. And as the mayor indicated, they're a recommending body, so if there were to be an amendment, that there would be what's called an overlay district, that they would be setting the boundaries for that district and making the recommendation. And before they would do a change to their code, they need to have a public hearing. So if that is the path it takes, there would be a public hearing, Planning Commission would act, it would then come back to the City Council. Not every decision is in the Planning Commission's hands, because some of those decisions are more legal or administrative in nature that aren't of a planning application. So some decisions would still lie with individuals up at the front table here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor, City Council, my name's Don Kleinhunt, so I've met all of you before over the last 3 years doing business here in the city. And I just want to make as a matter of public record that we didn't show up in Trenton on a whim. June 9th, 2016, there was a first reading of a ordinance that limits cultivation to I-1 through I-3 districts within the city limits of Trenton. I believe all of your city council meetings are well publicized on your website. I believe the agendas are also well publicized on your website. So all of this public outcry of all this secrecy that's been going on and these behind doors things that they're not aware of, this has been publicized for over 3 years through public meetings, through city council meetings, through planning meetings. So I'm very confused on where everyone is just baffled that this suddenly appeared. Based on that first reading, we purchased the building at 880 Jefferson. We actually put an option in on the property, and the option clearly stated that there was a contingency for approval of this ordinance to be approved, which that ordinance had a second reading on July 12th. So the day after the second reading, and after the mayor signed the new ordinance into effect, stating that cultivation has to be in the I-1 through I-3 zoning, where our building's located, we came down here to the city and we met with Virgil, I guess the city manager, or I don't know,
He's a city inspector.
city inspector at the time. We went to the licensing department. From that day forward, we have been nothing but 100% transparent in what our future was, what we were proposing to do. We showed Virgil the property. He looked at the plat books. He said, wow, that didn't take long, 24 hours. You have a property that fits. He said, I need to come out and take a look at the building. He was out there 3 days later. He toured the facility. 2 weeks later, he had 12 inspectors come out. They toured the facility. It's quite a large facility. It's 20,000 square feet. It's 500 some odd feet long. They handed us a 38-item list that needed, which I'm really intrigued now to see how many other people have purchased commercial buildings in the city limits of Trenton to conduct business, whether they're vacant or they're operating, and to see who else has ever received a 38-item list of things that have to be rectified to the building. But we met with all the
Look at
inspectors.
that at homes.
Okay.
I will let you know that.
Well, I see a hospital sitting out here that's been empty since the day we got here. I know the property across the street from us been in its dilapidated state for who knows how long. But we still went along with the program. We said, sure, Virgil. We said yes to all the city inspectors. Again, 100% transparency. Went through the list of the 38 items. We are now at over $1 million invested into that property. We did everything that the city asked us to do. We had the city, every inspector toured the facility. We had the city police chief, the fire chief, the head of every organization that could come out and inspect it. We invited city council members to come out and take a look. Some did, some didn't. We had you there as the mayor to come take a look. So my point is that we have followed every step to our ability to do this in a proper fashion. There's already been planning meetings for this. What happened to those? There's already been numerous other city council meetings. What happened to those? It's always a kick the can down the road situation. And I don't know where that's coming from, but it's very perplexing at this point. As an investor in this city, as $1 million investment in a vacant building in this city, I'm paying $20,000 in summer tax tomorrow morning here at the city. How I can take an empty building, turn it into a functioning business with legally licensed as a caregiver center through your ordinance, and then we get treated this way. It's just completely baffling. I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it on public record. After we did everything that I just mentioned, our attorney, Kurt Kobolak, went to the city and said, hi, the fellows have done everything they've been asked to do. They now would like to get their CO. The city said, fine, here's your certificate of occupancy. He then said, I would like to have my business license for everything that they've accomplished and for what they're applying for. There's no such license.
We don't have a business license.
So you ran us through the hoops of everything you ran us through, and then you wouldn't even issue us a business license. But we were told by the city.
Because I've worked here for 43 years. We've never had a business license. I'm going to let you know that.
So-
Well, the C of O is to make sure that your building is up to code, okay? So that's what you're going to receive is a C of O.
But we were told that we could operate, correct? We could legally operate our caregiver center at that facility, correct?
That's your caregiver, yes.
Yes. So that's what we did. So you're telling me there wouldn't be no city license? There would be no?
there'll be licenses if we go through this process. There'll be licenses for your, for the business, but, for the business of what you want to do. But we don't have what you would call a business license for us to issue to you. The certificate of occupancy is to make sure that your building is up to
No,
code.
I understand that, which we did. We handled all life safety issues.
We've never had a business license. I mean, you can go to Lincoln Park and yes, they've got one, but you talk with them and go, what is it for? You know what I mean? It's one of
So
those
other
things.
businesses here, like other manufacturing companies, don't have business licenses. They just have certificate
That's
of
correct.
occupancies? Okay. The other point, the caregiver situation, as far as the residents go, it was great that you did the ordinance that you did, and it was great that we found the building that fits within the distance setbacks per your ordinance. And for the safety issue, for the fire issue, the state law with the caregiver situation, you can have a caregiver arrangement with up to 72 plants in any residential house anywhere in the city of Trenton. So you were smart in enacting this ordinance to put these businesses within an industrial zone. And I agree to have a proper control that if there is a life safety issue, if there is a fire, if there's what have you, that you know where the places are at. They're secure. Nobody's stealing power. Nobody's, running something in their garage that's powered 10 times beyond what it should be. So that's all positive. As far as the skunk smell, I challenge somebody to step outside of our building and show me that there's a skunk smell. You've all been there. Was there a skunk smell outside of our building?
Not that I'm aware of.
We have incredibly expensive filtration systems specifically to deal with that. So my point is, you guys have told us since day one, you don't want retail in the city limits. You don't want dispensaries. We're not in the dispensary business. We're not in the retail business. We're a manufacturing company.
We were still in just, even in the processing to make oils or whatever it may be, we were still on edge over that too.
Okay, well, I think there was some confusion within the city that, unfortunately, with the state, provisioning and processing can be somewhat confusing with each other. Provisioning is a retail sale.
That's correct.
Processing is just turning the plant into the medicine. So it's the refining of the manufacturing aspect of it. And I just wanted to also make clear for public record, that building, that location has never had a remote possibility in our minds to become a retail center, a dispensary, nothing more than the cultivation, manufacturing, and the processing. That the product would never see the light of day. We have a 50-foot built-in truck bay that a licensed state distributor would have to come pick up, a transport company. So we're not allowed to even own a transport company in the state of Michigan. If you have a cultivation center or a processing center, you're not allowed to be the transporting company. So, and then it would be transported anywhere within the state of Michigan. It's not being made for the city of Trenton. It would be sent from the licensed transporter to a licensed dispensary, a licensed provisioning center. So there's been some confusion, I think, on that. And I also think in your ordinance, your first reading, I think there was some administrative problems where somebody changed I've seen multiple versions of the ordinance that was supposed to be the first reading where there was confusion with provisioning centers and processing. And I think you actually had a first reading to allow provisioning in the city of Trenton.
We did. That's why when it came about for the second reading, when I started looking at, I sat with the city clerk and we started proofing what we had in the first and the second. We needed to take that out. That was one of the things that was going to be taken out because the council wasn't for, provisional centers.
Which we aren't either. But earlier tonight, you said that it would be the first draft ordinance that would go to the city planning commission, not the second.
They received both of them, though. I don't know if you heard me, but I mentioned that I was informed that they received both of them.
Because I believe, from my understanding, it's corrections. Actually, some corrections that I personally suggested after I read the first reading because the ordinance was incorrect. So I just want to make it as clear as I possibly can on public record that our transparency has been 100%.
Oh, no, I haven't had any problem. I never had any problem with the Molinos either. When it came down to it, you've been straightforward with us with what you wanted to do there. That was not a problem.
Okay.
I think that, and I don't know why, we've always been transparent with having this on council meetings and stuff like that, but we ended up we started to worry about, when they started having all the different cities were being sued and this kind of thing. So we were kind of pulling back only because we don't want to be one of those cities. So we want to make sure what they're getting sued about and, where we're going with it before we decide, if we're going to move on or what we're going to do. So,
Okay,
go ahead.
two other quick things. One, just for the residents of the city of Trenton to know, there was an overwhelming, unanimous, positive yes vote for recreational marijuana when that vote happened in the state of
It
Michigan.
it was 55 to 45 in Trenton.
Okay, so just so
you know.
everybody's aware of that.
Oh, I know more about marijuana than I ever really want to know, to be honest with you. So,
Okay, and that's all I wanted to state, is that we're still here to work with you, and we want to work with you, but obviously now our frustrations now are at level 12, because every day we're moving forward to try to do things properly, and we just keep getting the door slammed in our face.
Sure.
And it doesn't seem to make any sense. The last thing I'll say about the public record aspect of it's for the general public to be aware of. When you get a commercial license, which this ordinance would be about, you have to be approved by the state of Michigan. And to get approved by the state of Michigan, it's no different than if someone is getting, I hate to compare it, but even a gaming license. The diligence that the state goes through to approve someone for a state license is not a simple task. So if an individual or an entity can pass the scrutiny of the state of Michigan, not just the city of Trenton, not just the county of Wayne, but the state of Michigan would approve a license for an entity or an individual, that individual has gone through more scrutiny than you could ever imagine or dream of having in a small local ordinance. It also then allows for state policing and state control of what's happening with the product. It doesn't put the burden on the local control. The local control is still allowed, but they get the assistance of the state. And there's what's a thing called seed to sale, where the state actually controls from the seed of the plant all the way through the retail end of the plant where this plant has gone and how it's been created. So it's a much more controlled, positive situation than the current, what I call Wild West caregiver situation, where you have caregivers all over the city of Trenton. Whether you're aware of it or not, which I think you are,
get calls.
there are caregivers all over this. So I just want to say, we're standing here trying to do this right. And we would appreciate, the reciprocation back to us of,
I'm getting so that they're saying, can I cut you here? So
Okay.
I appreciate your comments, and like I said, you've got a couple of planning commissioners here right now listening to you, so
So what is the timeline? It was still confusing to me tonight.
Well,
If just as an ending thing, if you could.
Go ahead. I'm going to have my city administrator let you know what we're doing here.
It has been referred to the Planning Commission. Planning Commission's next meeting is on October 9th. They are going to be receiving communication. It is not my understanding there's going to be a public hearing or necessarily any discussion. I believe they're going to be receiving the report of the city planner of what the tasks are for the Planning Commission to accomplish. They will then be scheduling that for their discussion at later meetings. They generally meet on the second and fourth Wednesday of each month, if there is a matter to be heard. So again, they'll be receiving it on October 9th, this Wednesday. But I don't expect it to be, again, a public discussion forum that there's a need for people to show up. It's a public meeting, you're always welcome at those. From discussions with the Planning Commission chair, he said they're a very thorough, very deliberative bunch. It has been to Planning Commission before, however, it was a totally different landscape at that point in time. Recreational had not passed for one issue on a statewide ballot initiative, but what came out of that planning recommendation in 2017, in April, I believe, was for one grow operation, one processing, and one provisioning center. What was contemplated by the council on first reading had no provisioning centers and changed the numbers of grow or processing centers. So it's going back to them for their evaluation. And again, their focus is primarily going to be on, I believe, the overlay district or what the permitted boundaries would be, and they would then recommend back to the city. It's my hope that the city is able to get some direction from other communities so we would know what that landscape is going to be. In particular, the Warren case, those who were not granted licenses are suing because the decisions were not made in a public meeting. When we're talking about security plans, sanitation disposal plans, reviewing owners' financial documents, if that had to be done in a public meeting or were subject to FOIA disclosure, that really changes the landscape if I'm in your shoes.
Right.
To me, I have no idea why you would ever be reviewing publicly reviewing a security or
Exactly.
a safety plan for such a facility. It defeats the whole purpose if everybody knows how you're securing it. But those are some of the things that we're waiting for. Hopefully get some guidance through the courts or regulatory agencies at the state level, know what the playing field is, and make an educated decision at all levels from there.
So here we are at October 7th. So after that educated decision, after the planning meeting, give me a ballpark timeline of what 3 years from now, 6 months from now, 90 days from now? I mean, I was here, 3 years ago. I just want to know if it's going to be another 3 years. Is it going to be just shoot me an idea? I mean,
I would certainly hope it doesn't take that long. I don't have a vote on the matter. I would hope that the information is gathered, and I think really what would contribute to a holding pattern from my standpoint, making an administrative recommendation, is what's going on through the court system. If there are legal challenges or the landscape hasn't settled down from the courts, that may cause reason for uncertainty as far as my recommendation or in consultation with the city attorney. If we have decisions from regulatory levels and from the courts that we know what the lay of the land is, I think everybody can make an educated decision. I would certainly hope it's more in the months, not the years.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.